OPBOptionMillionaires.com. It's Wednesday, April 26, 2017, about 5 minutes before the opening bell, so I'll be brief, but look, S&P 500 futures are flat to open the trading session here today. Couldn't say the same thing yesterday or the day before. We actually gapped higher on Monday out of this long-term consolidation phase. The highs we saw was the Trump speech, been pulling back ever since, the bearish blogs, even MarketWatch talking about how the Trump fade is in. It's time to fade the Trump rally. But look here, we're almost up to new all-time record highs. Tax cuts are being talked about this morning. Treasury Secretary, 15% corporate tax rate. Of course, the market's known about this, so some of that is priced in, but I think that could continue to keep a bid under the market. If you look, also, the VIX has been beaten down. Now, heading into last week, the VIX was elevated, hanging up near that 16 level, 15, 16 level, consolidating. Usually the VIX gets up to a high level, it peaks and gets beaten down promptly. This time around, look, especially recently, look back in November, just before the election, before that in September. Each time we get up high on the VIX, we get a nice spike. It gets reversed. This time we were kind of consolidating. So gave you the possible scenario of maybe lower prices for the market, higher fear. We have World War III breaking out, nuclear missiles. We have terrorists. We have just a lot of things. We're bombing Syria. A lot of possible negative headlines for the market, but what does it do in the face of all of that? It just continues to rally. The VIX dropped 25% on Monday. Look at this. We're heading back to that print that we saw just at the early part of 2017. Under 10, 997, something we haven't seen since 2007 for the VIX. And if we do break into that single-digit territory for the VIX, that's going to be new all-time record highs for the S&P 500. We saw it with the NASDAQ already, and we're right there on the cusp for the small caps. But we don't have a lot of time here. The bell's going to ring in a couple minutes, so let's just get into some charts real quick. One chart I continue to look at, got into earnings for its last earnings report. You can see the move. It had a beautiful gap over the 60 level to 66. EBIX consolidating again, looks like it's going to make a move to new all-time record highs. It's something to trade for the May $65 calls. I'll be looking for those. I think we're going to hit new all-time highs on EBIX. And then, of course, when earnings comes around, I'm expecting another gap up, possibly to 70. A stock JB at Option Millionaire has been talking about for quite a long time is just gone orbital. Wix, huge move to the upside yesterday, up over 10%. Look at this trend, though. This chart is just not something you want to get in the way of. I mean, if you just looked at this chart, not even the fundamentals of the company, you're like, this is the same type of chart we've seen since 2008 and 2009, the lows of the market. Look at Domino's Pizza. As much as the heavy debt load, everything that really would make you want to short the stock, look at the chart. The chart is like a runaway train, and Wix, just a great call by JB at OptionMillionaires.com, called it at the start of the year down here, and now everybody's hopping on the bandwagon. Congratulations to the longs. Let's look at some other charts here. Amazon reports earnings, I believe, after the bell tomorrow. You can see this consolidation here, ready to break out. I think we're going to hit new all-time highs after its earnings report. Same with Google, which is breaking out now. We saw this back 2 years ago, I believe it was, with Google breaking out before its earnings report and then continuing that breakout after its earnings report. You draw a trend line across. We are breaking out of this resistance since the end of August. I think we're going to head over $900 before the earnings report tomorrow after the closing bell. Facebook is one. If you want to look to short something in this market, I know it seems the short's got to short something, right? But if you look, Facebook, long term, this trend line has been holding, right? Long term. And it's finally just like, oh, you're free to go. It's kind of like moving out. Facebook's got its own place now, moved away from its parents here, this trend line. Is it going to come back to it? I don't know. But if you look, you just draw a trend line across, maybe a move back to 45. So if Facebook, I believe, reports earnings next week, it's going to be something to watch, possibly for a full pullback. I know analysts are coming out. Expectations are high. They think Facebook's going to report another tremendous earnings report, and probably they will. And we've seen it in the past where they have a tremendous earnings report. I even think back this fall here that we saw back late last year, had a great earnings report, but ultimately the stock collapsed and fell down to this trend line support. So even if they report this tremendous earnings report, there's a chance we could see a drop for Facebook. So I think out of any of the FANG, now speaking of FANG, Netflix hit a new all-time high yesterday. Netflix over 152 and change. So if you want to look at one of the FANG that possibly is going to pull back over the next couple of weeks, you would look at Facebook. Look at Netflix. Netflix, beautiful breakout here, folks. Beautiful breakout of Facebook. Facebook, Netflix. Oh, we only got a minute or two before the opening bell, so let me just close this out because I'm stumbling and bumbling. S&P 500 futures breaking out also the SPY, which tracks The S&P 500 breaking out, looking at wedge, awesome. The NASDAQ, we look at QQQ, new all-time high yesterday. Small caps, new all-time high. Paint yesterday breaking out of that channel again. I remember the last time we had a couple weeks above that channel before pulling back. So we'll see if the confirmation here is going to be a breakout from this level here, because the other high that we saw before we pulled back was about 140.86. I believe we hit 140.88 yesterday. So watch the small caps. A couple more charts. What do we got? Oh, finally, Twitter. Twitter reported earnings this morning. Got some $15 calls yesterday. Just watch it for a possible break here. You see volumes declining. The market wasn't really expecting much of a move, so the $15 calls were relatively cheap. We're up here at 16. You can see this possible gap down as a fill here at the $17 to $18 level to get us back up to 18. I'm going to lock in and possibly play some $17 calls for next week. All right, UPBOptionMillionaires.com. A minute before the opening bell. I'll see you in the chat room. Everyone have a great trading day. Goodbye.